He did it so fast that the first time Renata thought she had imagined it. One moment her daughter Piper was walking toward the living room window. The next, their boxer Hatch, 4 years old, 73 pounds of muscle and stubborn loyalty, was between them. Not barking, not growling, just there, a warm amber wall between a 22-month-old and the window she always pressed her nose against to watch the street. Piper sat down hard. She started crying. Renata pulled Hatch back by the collar and looked at him. He looked at her. His face was serious in the way boxers are always serious, that wide-set solemn gaze that people mistake for stupidity. He was not stupid. He was looking at the window. Renata chalked it up to something she couldn't name and moved on. The second time was 2 hours later. Same window, same sequence. Piper toddling toward the light, Hatch moving from across the room faster than she would have thought possible for a dog that spent most afternoons horizontal. He placed himself sideways across Piper's path. Piper bounced off his flank and started crying again. Renata told her husband Tomasz that night. Tomasz had owned boxers his whole life. He said it was resource guarding. He said the trainer they'd used for Hatch's basic obedience would know what to do. He wasn't alarmed. He was certain. Renata was also certain, in a different direction, but she couldn't have explained what she was certain of. She called the trainer the next morning. The earliest appointment was 10 days out. Hatch went to the window 17 times in those 10 days. Renata knew because she started logging it. She had been a middle school science teacher for 7 years, and she kept records by instinct. Each log entry was identical in structure. Time, Piper's location, Hatch's starting position, behavior, duration. By day 4, she had ruled out resource guarding. He had no object at the window, no food, no toy. By day 7, she had ruled out visual aggression towards something outside. His gaze was never through the glass. It was always at the window frame itself, the lower left corner, the same corner every time. Her mother came to visit on day 8 and watched Hatch do it once. She said without hesitation, "He smells something." Renata thought about that for 2 days. On day 10, an hour before the trainer was scheduled to arrive, Hatch stopped 17 feet from the window and did not move toward it. He sat down. He looked at Renata. He made a sound she had not heard from him in 4 years, a low, sustained vocal output that was not quite a bark and not quite a whine, something with an edge of urgency she would later struggle to describe to anyone who hadn't heard it. She smelled it then, something metallic and faint, the kind of thing your nose registers before your brain labels it. She picked up Piper. She walked out of the room. She called 911 from the kitchen. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you are in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. The firefighter who responded was a woman named Captain Elise Doran. She had 14 years of residential fire investigation. She took 17 minutes with a meter near the window frame before she called for her partner. What she found in the wall cavity behind the lower left corner of that living room window, the precise corner Hatch had been orienting toward for 10 days, was a junction box with a wire connection that had been arc faulting intermittently. The insulation around it was blackened across 3 inches. Carbonized. The surrounding framing had absorbed heat at levels consistent with a slow-developing fire that had been building for approximately 7 to 10 days. 7 to 10 days, Captain Doran walked them through it with the specific care of someone who has explained close calls to parents before. The fault itself produced heat and specific chemical compounds as the insulation degraded. Compounds that a dog can detect at concentrations far below human sensory threshold. He wasn't guarding the window. He was marking the source of a smell that was wrong, that didn't belong, that came from inside the wall where neither Piper's small hands nor Renata's trained eyes could reach. He kept putting himself between your daughter and the wall, Captain Doran said, because he had identified that spot and he didn't want her near it. Has your dog ever done something that made no sense until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. The trainer arrived as the fire crew was finishing. Renata told her what had happened. The trainer stood in the doorway and looked at Hatch, who was sitting calmly in the center of the living room now, watching the window the way a sentry watches a perimeter that has been secured. "You don't need me today," the trainer said. He already knew exactly what he was doing. Tomas sat on the floor that evening with his back against the couch, and Hatch pressed against his side. The repair crew had taken the lower section of wall. The framing was exposed. The wire had been replaced. The junction box was correct now, sealed, safe. The smell that had been wrong was gone. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. Hatch looked at the window once. He exhaled. He lay down with his chin across Tomas's knee. Piper pressed her face against the glass the next morning, watching the street. Hatch was asleep in his bed across the room. He didn't move. There was nothing at that corner worth watching anymore. The next story is about a dog who refused to let anyone in the family open the basement door, and what the inspector found when he finally did.